It began with cold, bone-deep, breath-stealing, soul-numbing cold. The kind of cold that doesn't just freeze your skin. It hollows out your hope. On the unforgiving streets of New York, wrapped in the tattered silence of the early morning, a girl sat huddled beneath a crumbling brick awning. Her name was Emily, and she was 15 years old. Snowflakes drifted like ashes onto her tangled hair. Her coat, once pink, had faded to gray and hung on her thin frame like loose skin. Her fingers, raw, stiff, and blue at the edges, clutched the only possession she had left, a frayed, sun-bleached blanket barely thick enough to warm a baby, let alone a starving girl on a winter night. And yet, it was her only shield from the wind that sliced between buildings like invisible knives. She hadn't eaten since the day before yesterday. Maybe longer. Hunger had become background noise now, dulled by the ache of emptiness she no longer feared. The city moved around her like a movie. She wasn't in people in scarves and boots, heads down, hearts elsewhere. None of them looked. None of them stopped. She had learned not to expect kindness. Not anymore. Then a sound broke through the stillness. Not a shout or a siren, but something much softer, a whimper. Emily's head turned, breath hanging in the icy air like smoke. Across the sidewalk, beneath a flickering street lamp, lay a dog. A German shepherd, coated in grime and curled tight beside a trash bin. His body shivered uncontrollably, ribs poking through his fur like branches under snow. When he lifted his head, Emily saw his eyes. Brown. Hollow. Resigned. She didn't move at first. Didn't dare. Her instinct screamed survival. Keep what little you have. But something in the dog's gaze pulled her forward. A mirror, maybe. Of her. Of how it feels to be seen and still forgotten. Slowly, Emily crawled from her corner. The moment the blanket left her shoulders, the cold attacked her bare skin like knives. Still, she moved forward, each breath a struggle. "Hey, buddy," she whispered, voice cracked from days without use. The dog didn't move. Just trembled harder. Emily draped the blanket over him, carefully tucking it under his body, her numb fingers shaking. She waited for a growl, a bite, a retreat, but none came. Only a quiet, broken sigh as the dog closed his eyes, and, for the first time in who knows how long, rested. Then something remarkable happened. He shifted, inched closer, and pressed his body against hers. The warmth startled her. Not just physical, but emotional. His breath puffed softly into the space between them, and in that moment, the girl who had nothing left in the world, finally, wasn't alone. Morning came slowly. The pale sun painted the snow gold. Emily stirred beneath the blanket, now wrapped around two. The dog hadn't left. A soft smile tugged at her lips. "Guess we're stuck with each other now," she whispered. He blinked at her, ears twitching, eyes full of something strange and rare. Trust. And Emily, for the first time in a very long time, whispered back a name neither of them had heard in years: Shadow. It had been less than a day since Emily found him, or maybe since he found her. But already, something unspoken had passed between them. Shadow didn't need words to understand. Neither did she. Two lost souls who had given up looking for home, only to stumble into each other's silence. They walked now, side by side through the gray veins of the city, weaving between crowds that didn't see them. Emily's coat hung open again, the blanket left behind on Shadow's back. She still shivered, but she didn't pull it back. He needed it more. And somehow, she didn't feel as cold. Her stomach ached. No food since yesterday. Or was it the day before? She didn't remember. They scoured the sidewalks, trash bins, benches, curbsides for anything remotely edible. Nothing. Not until they reached the subway entrance. The spot was busy. People rushing downstairs, rushing out, eyes glued to phones, to clocks, to anything but each other. Emily hesitated. She'd sat here before, but this time, she wasn't alone. She slid down to the pavement, knees pulled close, her back pressed to the icy concrete. Shadow curled beside her, blanket still across his back. Her fingers trembled as she rubbed warmth into them. The cold was worse in stillness, but she knew what she had to do. She took a breath, and then she began to sing ... It wasn't much. A lullaby she used to hum when the nights weren't so long. Her voice cracked, worn from silence and cold, but something soft poured out, real, raw, beautiful in its brokenness. The notes floated into the rushing crowd like snowflakes, fragile, brief, but impossible not to notice. And then Shadow moved. He stood, ears forward, tail gently wagging as people passed. When someone came too close, he stepped forward, not barking, just existing, in the way only a good dog can. His presence was a signal. Notice her. She matters. A man in a business suit slowed, looked down, first at the dog, then at Emily. A coin hit the ground. Then another, a woman in a long coat, paused, kneeling to scratch behind Shadow's ears. "Beautiful boy," she said softly. Her eyes flicked to Emily. She pulled a $5 bill from her purse and placed it in the girl's hand. Emily blinked. "Thank you," she whispered. By sunset, she had more coins than she'd seen in weeks. Enough to buy bread, soup, dog food, something warm. As they walked from the station, the world looked different, like someone had wiped the fog from the window for just a moment. Emily reached down and touched Shadow's fur. "You did that," she said. Shadow pressed his head gently into her hip in reply. They turned the corner toward a familiar alley, an abandoned lot where they sometimes slept. But as they entered the shadows, a chill knot from the weather ran down Emily's spine. Then came the voice. "Well, well, what do we have here?" 3 figures stepped forward, young men, ragged, eyes sharp with something darker than hunger. Emily backed up, heart pounding. "I don't have anything," she whispered, but they weren't listening. Shadow growled, and the air snapped like a wire pulled too tight. The alley swallowed sound like a cave. Only their footsteps echoed until they didn't. Emily's pulse quickened. Her breath steamed in the cold as she spun toward the shadows behind her. 3 of them. Young. Hard. Hungry in a way that had nothing to do with food. She'd seen eyes like theirs before on people who had lost everything, even their humanity. They weren't looking for help. They were looking for someone weaker. "Got anything for us, sweetheart?" One said, his voice oily, his grin crooked with menace. Emily's fingers tightened around the thin fabric of her bag. "I don't have anything," she lied, stepping back. "Oh, come on," another sneered. "We saw you singing today. That dog of yours worked a crowd. Bet you made more than a few dollars." The leader stepped forward. Shadow growled low and deep, his stance shifting from relaxed to ready. "Call off the mutt," the thug spat. "Or we'll put him down." Emily shook her head, panic creeping in. "Please just leave us alone." But mercy doesn't live in alleyways. The leader lunged. Emily gasped, stumbling back. But she wasn't alone. Shadow launched forward, a blur of muscle and fury. His snarl cut through the night like thunder. He sank his teeth into the attacker's arm. Dragging him to the ground, the man screamed. Another thug tried to kick Shadow off. His boot connected hard with the dog's ribs. Emily cried out, running forward too late. Shadow yelped, rolling, but rose again instantly, blood at the corner of his mouth. He stood firm between Emily and danger, his body trembling but unbroken. The thugs froze. "Forget it," the leader hissed, clutching his bleeding arm. "Let's go." And just like that, they ran, vanishing into the night, Silence crashed down around them. Emily dropped to her knees beside Shadow. No, no, no. Her hands searched his fur, trembling, terrified. He whimpered, but nuzzled her face gently, still breathing. Still there, you're all I have, she whispered, pulling him close. Please don't leave me. Minutes passed. Or hours. She didn't know. She just held him. The streets returned to their rhythm. Cars in the distance. Footsteps on pavement. Life moving on, but not for her. Then, a voice soft, familiar cut through the cold. You. Emily looked up. A woman stood before her. The same elegant figure she'd seen watching her sing. Long coat. Silver streaks in her dark hair. Eyes sharp as winter light. I've been looking for you, the woman said. Emily tensed. Why? The woman didn't answer. Not at first. She knelt down, ignoring the filth beneath her, and reached a hand toward Shadow. He didn't flinch. What's his name? She asked. Shadow, Emily said, voice hoarse, a long pause. Then, of course it is. Emily frowned. What do you mean? The woman smiled, bittersweet. I once trained dogs like him. Years ago. Service dogs. K9S. 1. He was stolen. He looked just like this. Emily's grip tightened. He's mine. I don't care who he looks like. I know, the woman said gently. I wouldn't take him from you. I saw how he looked at you. How you looked at him. That kind of bond you don't fake it. Silence stretched between them, warm despite the cold. My name is Margaret Caldwell, the woman continued. I run a dog training center. A home. For people like you. And dogs like him. Emily blinked. Why? Because you didn't walk away, Margaret said. From him. From the cold. From yourself. You gave everything you had. That means something. She handed Emily a card. Emily stared at it, like it might vanish. You don't have to decide now, Margaret said. But if you want warmth, safety, purpose, there's a place for both of you. It was the first thing Emily noticed, not the stale, biting heat of subway vents or the momentary flicker from a coffee shop's open door, but real warmth. Deep. Gentle. The kind that doesn't just touch skin, but sinks into bone. She sat curled on a couch so soft it felt like a dream, wrapped in a blanket she hadn't had to fight the wind for. Shadow lay beside her, head heavy in her lap. His fur was clean now, his ribs no longer showing. The wounds from the alley were healing. So were hers. It had only been a week, 1 week since Margaret Caldwell had stepped out of the shadows and offered something neither of them expected, not pity, not charity, but a beginning. Margaret's house wasn't a house. It was a sanctuary, nestled on the city's edge. It sat on open land where dogs were trained to serve police partners, therapy companions, search and rescue heroes. It was a place built on discipline and compassion. And now it was Emily's single quotes S.81st. She didn't trust it. Years on the streets had taught her that kindness often came with a catch. But Margaret never asked for anything. She only showed up again and again with meals, with medicine, with patience, and then with something more. One morning, she led Emily to the training barn. You already have the gift, she said. Let me teach you how to use it. And so the girl who once gave her only blanket away began to learn. She fed dogs, walked them, trained alongside experts, learned behavior cues, medical basics, and how to see the world through their eyes. For the first time in years, Emily had a routine. She attended classes, got new clothes, read books she didn't understand but wanted to, and Shadow. He thrived. Margaret had been right. He had once been trained. His reflexes were sharp, his instincts precise. But what made him special wasn't just what he could do. It was who he chose to protect. He never left Emily's side. Not once. One snowy evening, she sat by the window, watching the wind swirl outside. The same kind of wind that had once bitten through her skin now danced harmlessly beyond the glass. She looked down at Shadow. "We made it," she whispered. He lifted his head, blinking slowly, pressing closer to her leg. They had slept under bridges, eaten from trash bins, run from danger. And now they were here fed, safe, warm. But more than anything, seen and in this new life, Emily discovered something else, purpose. She began helping Margaret train dogs for children with disabilities. Shadow often demonstrated commands calm, confident, loyal. Children gravitated to him. Emily taught them how to trust, how to give space, how to love without needing anything in return. One afternoon, a young boy with autism placed a trembling hand on Shadow's back. The dog didn't move, just wagged once and leaned into the touch. The boy laughed and Emily smiled. Weeks passed. Then months, and one evening, as she stood in front of a small crowd at the center's annual community event, Margaret nudged her gently. "Tell them how you found Shadow." Emily hesitated, then stepped forward. "I didn't find him," she said softly. "He found me." Silence fell, and then came applause, not for what she had said, but for what she had become. Not a street girl, not invisible, but a teacher, a protector, a home. As the sun set behind her, casting gold across the field, Emily wrapped an arm around Shadow's neck. She had given everything that cold night, and life unexpectedly, beautifully had given something back, a chance, a future, a family. And if this story touched your heart, if you believe that love can bloom in the darkest corners, then don't forget to subscribe. Because here, we share stories that prove one small act of kindness can change everything. Stay with us for the next one.